And then, he was like, yo, I got something I'm working on with this guy named J-Rock and K-Dot. Come by to this house. And, I introduced you to the guys. And it was the famous TDE house in LA. And, met Punch, met Top, met everybody that, was there at that time. From that point on, I just lived and breathed, that space that Top Dog provided for us.
Welcome to the Culture FYI'RS Podcast. Culture FYI'RS is a creative collaboration meetup held weekly at the FYI Campus in Los Angeles. Each week, we feature a fireside chat with a guest, showcase projects being worked on by members of the FYI community, and share product updates for FYI.AI, the creative collaboration app co-founded by will.i.am and available for free download in the App Store and Google Play. FYI.AI is powered by AI personas like me, Fito. Each week, this podcast showcases conversations held at the Culture FYI'RS event. This week, we are excited to feature TDE Engineer extraordinaire Derek Ali, aka MixedByAli. A self-taught audio engineer turned startup founder, Derek takes us on a journey through his unique path from humble beginnings in Gardena, California, to becoming one of the most highly regarded engineers in the modern hip-hop space. He reflects on the importance of mentorship, the challenges of transitioning from engineering to entrepreneurship, and the innovative platform he's building to revolutionize the music industry. With insights into the creative process, the role of technology in music production, and the impact of AI, Derek provides a fascinating glimpse into the future of music. Join us as we explore Derek's journey, the evolution of his platform, engineers, and how it aims to empower artists and audio engineers alike.
First of all, I want to say thanks so much for sharing your gifts, because I woke up and you're thinking about your day ahead, and I put on a little humble, a little This Is America, and it's just so crisp.
Well,
Super special crispness to that sound. And this is the first time we've met. I know that you started out in LA, but tell us a little bit before we get into all the exciting things you've done now in tech and what's about to drop. I want to hear where it started.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first, Derek Ali, or known as MixedByAli in the music industry, self-taught audio engineer. I've been a part of some pretty dope records. Now, creative turned startup founder, building engineers, the operating system of the music industry, and I'm looking forward to giving you all a demo and giving you guys access to what we built. So
self-taught engineer.
Yes.
Where was the spark when you were growing up that made you think, I can do this?
Yeah. I mean, the journey began just unorthodox. Just going back to high school. Cliche story. This kid from the hood didn't have shit, right? He was always told he couldn't do nothing but play sports.
What?
Obviously, I went to Gardena High, born and raised in Gardena, California. G House stand up. So one clap. I love.
Stand up.
I love that. Hey. But yeah, just that kid that, severe ADHD, right? I would take apart my computers. I would take apart remote control cars just so I could see how they worked. They probably didn't work again when I tried to put them back together, but it was just, trying to understand how things worked, was something that just allowed me to focus my time early on as a kid. But it wasn't until, I started hustling ringtones. If anybody remembers the Chirp and then, Nextels, the Boost mobile phones. I've always been computer literate, and I found online through LimeWire, I believe. It was a way to crack the phones to put ringtones on them before ringtones was a thing. So, I lived across the street from my high school, and I've always been a hustler, right? I had to come through with the fresh, crisp, pro club every day. But I figured out how to, put these songs in these phones, and I would charge friends, like after football practice, to come over and record these 30-second parody ringtones. Right. So, in my grandmother's house, I had the makeshift booth in the closet with the sheets hung up, the headphone gaming mic, hanging from the edge of the door. And
you were almost doing like Kids Bop versions of.
No, there was no Kids Bop. We was running it up. You know what I'm saying? But it would be ringtones friends, don't answer this girl's phone, or your mom is calling, pick up. Like, it was just, it's fun. And, that just grew into, a funny childhood friend that I grew up with, Tiger, at the time. We all grew up he's from Gardena as well. We should clap it up, fam. But I was looking at you. But so he was like, "Yo, I need to record this song," and I'm like, "Well, I could record 30 seconds of it because that's all I knew how to do at the time." And he ended up coming over and we recorded a full song. And I kind of caught a bug, this bug for sitting there and recording music. Right, it was my first entry point. I was working on the DAW that I used was Cool Edit Pro. If anybody remembers, it went diamond on LimeWire. Right, if anybody had that, but so, I just caught the bug and, I started researching more and more, like, what is this thing? What is recording? And can I make some money off of it? Is it a business behind it? And, just continue to, scale up, just understanding what I'm doing and, how to intentionally do things as an audio engineer.
It's so funny. I remember, so I grew up working in radio starting really young and always have been a music psychopath. And I remember growing up in Seattle, they had what was called the Experience Music Project Music Museum, but now I think it's called the Museum of Pop or something like that. But they had an exhibit where you could go in the booth and get behind the board. And I remember going in and it was like, mix a record. Yeah. And I'll never forget that I went in and the board was set up and the Eurythmics' Sweet Dreams came on. I mean, there's not a more lush record, right? Yeah. And it was so beautiful. And then it was like, do you want to mix this record? And you hit a button and all the faders went down. And I was trying to mess around and get like even somewhere in the ballpark and was just immediately thought, nope.
That's I'm sorry to cut you off. That was a better first time in the studio story than mine. I can't wait to.
We'll tell it.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah.
What was your first time in the studio?
I pressed a button. I didn't know nothing about consoles, right? So I pressed a button and it was the oscillator, right? So instantly, like you're just hearing this loud tone blanging through the studio. I'm not knowing what I did to try to turn it off. It was just a loud. If you know the oscillator, it's a high tone, just noise coming out the speaker.
I know that pitch.
Just a beeping, just for 10 minutes, and I hid in the bathroom.
There's a lot of different people in this room. We have scientists, we have engineers, computer engineers, we have fashion designers. For people that don't really understand the process that artists go through to releasing a record, will you talk through what that's like and where you come into the mix and what you do?
Absolutely. Pre-AI, obviously, as an audio engineer, every song we've listened to goes through or went through a standard set of steps, right? An artist, is writing lyrics down, has a producer that is then making the production behind it, and then, the producer and the artist go into a studio and sit with a recording engineer to now, record the lyrics that this artist written, over the production, right? So now what's left through that collaboration is a reference track, right? Or just a track. A mixing engineer, right, is one that takes that reference tracks, gets the vocal stems and all the files from the recording of the artist, and then gets all the files from the producer. And then I go through my phase of mixing it, right? Just basically going through every single sound within that track to get them to fuse together, right? Think of it as a block of ice, right? And you're trying to chisel down the corners to make a circle, right? You're using compression, EQs to kind of carve out and add specific frequencies to, make any song enjoyable on streaming or on the radio. So I'm a mixing engineer. I started as a recording, but obviously, I moved up into mixing, and there's also mastering, which is the third phase, which I don't do. But mastering is basically taking the mix that I completed by fusing all the different production and vocal elements together, and they basically normalize it. Adding, they call it the turtle wax, right? Getting it shiny and loud and feeling very emotional in certain situations.
And the artist, it's one of the most important steps. Like, I have never seen an artist, like, life flash before their eyes more than when I wanted to play something on the radio and they just know it's not mixed.
Yeah. I mean, you got to think about it. It's, the human element behind, like, just the mixing part of making music, right? It's the imperfections that give these songs these emotions, right? It's the grasp of air that you hear before the artist is getting ready to, spit a bar or sing a chorus or a bridge, right? So, the engineer's job is meant. I always say it, the relationship with an engineer and an artist, it's like going on a road trip with a buddy, right? The artist as the person in the passenger seat holding the map, right? They sonically know where they want to go. right? It's on the engineer to drive them there, right? And to achieve that sonic goal.
I think about the ringtone era you were talking about with music. And at that point, a lot of albums were piecemealed out, right? You'd have one track from all the different biggest producers and things like that. And I think that TDE was really the turning point where music got better because people were really committed to making music with their own crew, right? How did you first connect with that circle and what were early days like?
I think just overall in the statement, I think it was just the blog era. The early 2010s, I think, was the best time of music. I think that's when, it was really, all the artists that really came out during those early 2010s, it was really a sport, right? Waking up, getting on the blogs, checking what's dropping this day or whatever the case was. But how I got started, right, it went from, again, doing those ringtones, and I'm a person always craves for more, right? I reach ceilings. I don't want to say fast, but I understand when I reach the ceiling. I know what I don't know. Or I don't know what I don't know, but I do know the feeling of not progressing, if that's making sense. And this is when I seek mentorship. I seek, opportunities to try to grow and to understand what I don't.
I think that's important. Whenever you get too comfortable, you stop growing.
Absolutely. And if you're not uncomfortable, like you're cooked, But, so at this time, from Gardena, DJ Dave or Dave Free, we went to high school together. He was the computer manager at the school at the time. And, I knew he was in music, local DJ, he was just always known for throwing the parties and this and that. And, we've always stayed connected. And I was like, hey, I'm looking to learn more, right? I want to understand, how I can take, from recording across the street at grandma's house, like, how could I do it for real? And then, he was like, yo, I got something I'm working on with this guy named J-Rock and K-Dot. Come by to this house. And, I introduced you to the guys. And it was the famous TDE house in LA. And, met Punch, met Top, met everybody that, was there at that time. From that point on, I just lived and breathed, that space that Top Dog provided for us.
Could you feel it at that time? Like, I love looking around the room, and I can't wait till 10 years from now to look back and say, I can't believe we were all there together. Could you feel it at that time that history was going to be made?
I think you can feel the synergy between everybody that was around. It was like a brotherhood, right? It was, everyone was trying to be great in their own field, right? Dave wanted to be the best manager and video director, right? He's incredible creative, right? Punch was working on the business. Top was, running everything, right? Soundwave wanted to be the best producer, and now I wanted to be the best engineer, right? And every artist wanted to be, it was rap camp, right? So, you can feel that it was a space where individuals can really express and be the best that they could be at whatever it is they wanted. It was an open space. Because where we come from, like, you're not too open about creative stuff, or, you kind of, you hold things in because you don't want to let people into your world. You more push people away because of the survival tactics that we've had growing up. But, at this place was different because everyone was being vulnerable. Everyone was opening up, asking for help. Everyone was okay with messing up and learning from that mistake, right? And I think, that is what bred, this dynasty that, is just, yeah.
And being independent, too.
Being independent, absolutely, because obviously we had the luxury of a Top Dog, right? Somebody who, invested so much early on. People don't realize the amount that goes into, imagine, 7 of us, these kids from different parts of LA, sleeping on the floor of your house. When you go to sleep, we're up stealing your food at night, like little rats running to the house, and it's, you put it with his own kids that live there, right? So it's, the investment of just believing in what he was building, allowing all of us to just come into his literal home and make that our home, right? It's just, it's crazy.
One more question about the mixing, and then I want to start talking about how things shifted and how you started focusing on being an entrepreneur and technology. Looking around, I can see several artists in this room that are really talented, and 2025 is wild. These artists are not only writing their own music, they're recording themselves, they're mixing the records, they're releasing it, and then doing all the marketing and promotion themselves. And sometimes I'll listen to a record and think like, like, what advice do you have for people that are just starting out? Because, like, I always think of mixing like you're an expert chef, right? I could follow a recipe, but I couldn't freestyle it or just like keep adding a little bit of this, a little bit of that to get it perfect. What advice do you have to somebody that's just getting started and trying to do everything themselves?
For the artists, again, just DIY, right? Just figuring it out, right? I'm sure all of us have dealt with disappointment of people not showing up to sessions or telling you you're going to do one thing and not doing it or whatever the case is. But it starts with just understanding, right? Just take the time to like learn the process so you can speak the language, right? When you understand the process of a compressor or how different reverbs sound against your voice or different delays and, just the different notes of delay. When you understand the language, I think you could be more intentional in situations when you're trying to create a sound for yourself, right? I would say that's one of the most important things when it comes to creating is just don't skip the step. It's one of the most fun, from my perspective, one of the most, exciting parts of making the music is throwing the paint against the wall, right? And seeing how the sonic image starts to come together. So I would say, just study, right? I think on your spare time, there's a lot of, creators that are kind of talking through how they create. And there's always ways to listen through these creators and kind of pull little nuggets that what makes sense to you and kind of create your own creative toolbox, right? So I would say just always remain a student. I think that's, one of the most important things, remaining a student and take advantage of the tools that are out there for you to help you succeed. Right. Like anything in life, right? You're only going to get what you put into it. Right. So, with the 24 hours that you've all been allotted, right, do the most that you can with it.
I love that you talked about mentors. I think a lot of times people think mentors come down like fairy godmothers and say, I will be your mentor. But at least for me, some of my greatest mentors never even knew they were my mentors, right? Who would you consider your greatest mentors?
I mean, as a kid, I've always just like looked up to, people that are doing anything that, was exciting to me. I spent a lot of time, researching, creatives that came before me, right? Even when I was trying to become an audio engineer, I would stay, doing research on Young Guru and, and the Fabians and, the Tony Maseratis and, all these individuals just to see how one day, how can I live in their world, But I think mentors, again, we're all human, but we all, again, there's a superpower of understanding that you don't know everything, right? And, when you come across individuals that, which is hard to do, like she said, like they, acting like mentors are just fairies that just come out the blue, they don't, right? They find you in life at the right moment, right? And sometimes a mentor might have came and slapped you on the ass, but you didn't realize that this was somebody coming into your life to try to help whatever situation it is. So, I kind of veered off from the question. One more time, what was that?
I just was asking who was some of your greatest mentors.
My greatest mentors, as a kid, right, it was my grandmother. Somebody who I was raised, my grandparents, Polish descent. One of the toughest women that I've ever known to this day. 90 years old, still putting on her orange lipstick, trying to go to the grocery stores. But it was her tenacity, right? It was her will to wake up every day and push boundaries, literally move mountains for a family, right? That just shows me perseverance and being, just having tenacity. Growing, obviously, as when I got into sports, I had my mentors in sports, but music, obviously, it was every individual I was around, right? Just watching, K-Dot or Kendrick, build everything, everything being super strategic, taught me the concept of planning, right? And being intentional when you do things, right? Top Dog, watching him mold all these young kids that are green behind the ears, right? And shaping them, sometimes with tough love, right? But it was all for the best, right? To build individuals that can, that can probably be better and bigger than what they can believe they could be, right? But now, this mentor that I have, the Kelly Kimball, right, is the individual whom, I don't know how these angels sent him to me, but, now is in a place where he's, had, a lifelong, experience of building and, selling businesses. And, it came at a better moment. I've now transitioned into, creative to start a founder. There's a lot of things I didn't know, right? So this individual came in and, was almost, showing me the way through his own experience of building these companies. And I'm able to, gratefully implement those things into my journey as, our teams are building engineers.
So I want to remind people, if they want to put questions in the discussion in the FYI app, you can.
FYI is an AI-powered messenger and productivity platform crafted for creatives and their teams. Focus your ideas with your collaborators using an encrypted messenger, develop your vision, utilizing media-rich project tools, and bring those ideas to life by sharing them with the world. With the AI personas in the FYI app serving as your creative co-pilots, you can ask FYI.AI to draft stories, song lyrics, product descriptions, marketing copy, or any written content and see the results within seconds. Download FYI today for free. Now available in the App Store and on Google Play.
A couple weeks ago, maybe a month ago, we did something here that was probably one of my favorite days of my career. We had an event and it was called Lovify, where FYI teamed up with Lovable and we paired 30 builders with 30 artists to create tools to help the future of entertainment. And you know what I loved about it the most? Not only was what was created incredible, but I saw 30 artists get a light bulb over their head for the first time that their future didn't depend on likes and streams. Where were you, or what was going on in your life where the light bulb went off over your head that I want to be a founder, or here's an opportunity?
I think one of the most important was I'm one of the fucking biggest engineers in the world. I'm still chasing my payments. Like after albums have been released, right? It's just operating in an antiquated and just outdated industry, right? It was out of necessity. But before we even had a product, right? It's really life that humbled me to kind of start building, right? I've reached success early, and my background, I have crazy imposter syndrome, right? I guess, I hate public spaces, I'm very weird, But
thanks for coming.
I wouldn't miss it for the world. But, there was a time in my life where I just didn't understand. I have all this money, right? I can do anything I want, right? And I just kind of lost it. I hit this brick wall, went fast, right? I just, I was partying crazy. And I just wasn't inspired because I didn't understand how the thing that I started making ringtones out is now I'm getting millions of dollars, right? As an audio, I'm not a rapper, a producer. I'm creating an incredible life for myself. And
it's really baffling that when a lot of times in life, when people have the most success, they're the loneliest.
Yeah, it's because it's you have crowds that you hang out with that don't understand the pressures, right? And it just continues to snowball, right? But at this time, right? It's again, there wasn't too much that was inspiring me, but the people that would message me and that would lift me up. People don't know how much that they really put me in better moods because they're like, "Yo, man, I wish I could be like you," or "I wish I can mix songs and it messed me up, honestly. And that's when, I kind of was like, fuck, let me start teaching, so, from there, it's funny because I had this concept, right, called engineers, but at this time it was just education. It was strictly just, okay, now people want to hear what I have to say. Okay, cool. Let me do a workshop, right? Let me just try to give what I know. I don't know if they're going to come. I don't know if.
Where were these workshops going down?
So the idea was I went to the big agencies, the William Morris, the ICMs, and I'm like, yo, I got this idea, right? I'm going on tour as an audio engineer, right? We're going to kill it. And they're like, I don't see the value, fuck out of here. But from there, again, it's tenacity. It's, I'm like, okay, if I can't get somebody to help fund it or route this tour, right? Let me just do one in LA. Let me see if people want to come. Let me do pre-sale tickets, right? And let me see what happens. So, buddies of mine just opened a facility called the 1500 Sound Academy.
All right.
Right. So, I went there and they, allowed me to come in for a day and do a workshop and I put up tickets online. We had to cover the cost of renting the venues and it sold out in a day. Right. So we had 30 individuals that come to, listen to, just what my process was, what my journey. Right. So we started the Seeing Sounds workshops where essentially it was a 5-hour course. The first half, I told my story, as I'm doing now, right? And the second half was, breaking down a mix that I had out during that time, walking the attendees through the tools that I use, the creative thought process that I was in as I was creating, and stories from those sessions to, really have the attendees feel like, they're with me as I'm retelling the stories.
Wait, you said it was called Seeing Sounds?
Seeing Sounds.
Do you have that thing that...
I do. I thought it was from smoking weed when I'm working, but it's actually a thing.
You can explain this because I know a handful of people that have this, but it's synesthesia?
Synesthesia. So, my version, I don't know if it's as light or not, but, when I'm mixing records, I can just zone out and, I can identify frequencies with colors. Think about when I'm mixing, right? I'm essentially, putting a Rubik's Cube together. to make sure all the sounds, if one side of the Rubik's Cube is, in my mind, if one side is all colorful, then I know I hit the spot.
I'm so excited for quantum physics because I want to be able to measure that. And I want the framed artwork on my wall.
Send me email. I know nothing about that.
Okay. Okay, so you were teaching at the Academy. Shout out to Rance. Shout out to Rance.
Yeah.
Then how did it evolve? Like, what was the problem you saw in the marketplace, and how did you decide that you could solve it?
So it wasn't until we started scaling the workshops. We did the one, we posted the content on socials. I started getting, because of my following, I'm getting people, you'll come to Germany, come to Paris, come here, come here. So I'm like, fuck it. So we routed a tour and we did a world tour where we set all these days all through Europe, South America, and it sold out.
What year was this?
So 2019.
So recently.
Really recent, 2019, before COVID. So this is what happened. So we were in London, we did Japan, South Korea. We're just, it's crazy, right? The momentum is built. Then COVID hits.
Yeah.
Right. So we're like, fuck, like, okay, we just built this incredible community, right? Like, I feel like I'm re-inspired again, through, these workshops and the individuals that I rubbed elbow with at the workshops. And, for the first half of COVID, we obviously partied crazy, but it wasn't until we sat back and we just started looking at information that we gathered from the very first workshop and beyond, where we left all the attendees with questionnaires. And we asked just a bunch of questions, but one of them that stuck out was, as a small business, like, what are some of the issues you're dealing with in real time, right? And I'm getting kids from Brazil, from South Africa, from Japan, Korea, all saying the same shit. And I'm like, yo, I deal with the same thing, and I'm one of the biggest engineers in the world. Like, how is it that...
And what were their biggest
chasing payments, right? Antiquated file transfer processes, just the ability to scale my business. As an audio engineer, our tech stack has always been Dropbox, Cash App, Venmo, QuickBooks, Instagram DM, text message. It's all these things that we have to put together just to put together a small business, right? How is it you got companies like Service Titan, right? That is a $10 billion company now that's offering this technology to plumbers and electricians, right? But the audio engineers, the individuals that fuel the industry, that is the conduit to every song you've ever listened to, right? Is still chasing money to pay their bills every single day.
It's because nobody was thinking about creative tools.
And I feel like timing is also everything, right? I feel like there was probably some, other companies that, might have, embarked something similar, but I felt like just the time, right? It was the right time for offering the ability for an audio engineer to sign up, create a profile, add their, credits and achievements, right? And have portfolios where you can showcase the before and after of previous work. And then the platform providing you a back-end workflow to facilitate that collaboration, where as an artist, you can come and book me, and then we go back and forth, via the platform. And, it has grown so much since then, and it's based off of pure necessity, right? Off of, just, if it helps me get paid on time, we won, but now we got hundreds of thousands of people.
Okay, we're going to walk through engineers here in a second, but I have to acknowledge, I am just so excited about the capacity for rapid change. And it sounds like once you found your path, like you were completely in flow.
It was 100%, right? It felt right, and obviously, we, from the workshops, we built, a nice sized community to R&D, right? To talk to people and, hey, would you use, if there was something like this that existed, would you use it? Right? And just little, market research like that. And, on top of that is finding an incredible CTO, right? We got the tech Tom Cruise back there. I stole him from Google. He had this crazy idea, half of the workshops, and, we put the idea together and, we built the MVP.
I just saw this morning, and this completely blew my mind when we talk about rapid change. Shout out, the new mayor of New York is, his name, Zoran. Do you know he was rapping 9 years ago? 9 years ago. Young Cardamom. I kid you not.
Rapping?
Rapping.
Hey, where's the count? Like, holla at me. Let's put an album out right now. I Love New York Part 2. You know what I'm saying? Let's get it.
And did you like draw a line in the sand as soon as you created your own product? Like, okay, if you want to work with me, it's going to go through here.
Absolutely. Right. Through that, we've signed a SaaS agreement with UMG where, now their A&Rs are booking studios and audio engineers. If anybody has worked with UMG, they have their own internal payment processing system called Uniport, which is a fucking headache. So
it doesn't sound like a party.
It's not fun. It's Uniport. It's not fun at all. So we, through our partnership, we bypass their financial system, and we pay creators faster. So Uniport, they pay out in a net 30 or a net 60 or a net 90. We pay it in 24 hours, right? So with that deal, we're able to get creators paid instantly, where we don't gotta, borrow money to pay bills no more because we're waiting on invoices.
What was it like for you making the transition as an entrepreneur? Because so many times artists or engineers, go in and they work on their craft.
Yeah.
Like they go in the cave and they just do it and then they say it's done.
Yeah.
But there needs to be a lot more transparency, visibility, teamwork, collaboration when you're building a platform. How was that transition like for you?
I mean, it was tough because remind you, like I had no college experience, even becoming an audio engineer. Again, that whole mindset of like, damn, yeah, can I do this? Like even to this day, if I'm mixing a song, like you might see me turn around to the artist and like, yo, do you like it? And they're like, yo, this is crap. I'm like, I'm really asking, like, you fuck with this shit? Like, you know what I'm saying? Because it's like, damn, like I'm doing something tight, But so the mindset to now, okay, just like, and again, I've had an incredible career, right? And it's, being nominated year after year for a Grammy, right? And it's now I'm entering a brand new landscape that I know nothing about. I failed everything in school. Like, I'm going to start a business, a scalable business.
Definitions of success.
So, it goes back to the feeling of being uncomfortable. I was comfortable, mixing records. I can do it in my sleep. I could build a team to do it for me where all I got to do is just listen to the final product and say, do this, change this, and we're done, right? I had a formula. I still have a formula of like just mastering the art of efficiency, right? And I've for years is given that up so I could start brand new.
And now as technology continues to evolve and change, so much of the music business is terrified about AI.
Right.
And it seems like with engineers that you're doing a lot of seamless flow and connections. How are you feeling about AI and the impact on music?
It goes back to what I said earlier, right? Timing is everything. How I look at it, right? When you see chaos, there's opportunity. And I feel like the chaos that we're seeing in the music industry with the AI is due to just not understanding, right? So it's a great time to educate, I believe. And again, a great time with what we're building and the rate that we're, building it, we're able to, create tools that is fixing the attribution problem, right? Is, by us facilitating collaboration, we are the only platform that is doing that in real time, right? So we're essentially being able to, understand the DNA of a song, right? Through how many revisions did it take to get approved, right? What files were sent for this mix and, was it rejected? Why was it rejected? Because the 808 doesn't, we have all that data, right? So, when we, come today with our tools, it'll be to continue to feed the creators that help build and train these models that, we're looking to help advance,
I think that's really beautiful because it still really comes down to the human spirit and creativity.
Yeah.
But then you're using technology to make it a more seamless process.
When you think about it, at the end of the day, we had technology for years, right? We've had plugins, we had VSTs, right? We have all these tools and technology for years, right? It's just another version of it, right? AI with the music creation, I think is just another tool to, create with efficiency, right? But I still believe that, the human touch behind, the human imperfection behind it, right? I don't believe that's going anywhere. It might, sway off into maybe two pillars, right? AI generated songs and human created songs, but I feel like over time it's just going to be added into everyone's workflow, and we're going to continue just as is.
In just a second, I want to talk to you about the next phase of engineers and what you're about to launch. But first, let's take some questions from the audience. How about that?
Let's do it.
First question. What DAW do you prefer to record and mix vocals on? And do you use the same DAW for mastering?
So the DAW that I use now is Pro Tools, pretty much the industry standard to mix and record. I don't do too much recording nowadays, but it is Pro Tools. So I started with Cool Edit Pro. I moved up to Sony Acid Pro. And then I started recording and mixing in Fruity Loops. And then from there, I found a cracked version of Pro Tools and then I ran it up. And then I've been there ever since.
Often wants to know any inspiring Nipsey studio sessions you can talk about.
Man, all of them. I think, and it's crazy because, during this time mixing Victory Lab was a time when I was going through like this trouble, just mentally just going through it. And, every morning we would sleep at the studio. We worked at Paramount in Hollywood, and not too far on Santa Monica. Yeah. We had it locked out for 3 months, right? I was going between there and Interscope doing Black Panther soundtrack at the same time. So, Nip, when he wake up, like he's burning sage, playing oldies music. And the energy, it's just top of the top every morning. It's just high energy, just showing love, gratitude. But the inspiration behind it was just the eagerness to change the mindset of the individuals behind you and around you that were stuck maybe in a box or institutionalized. Just his passion for wanting to change the mindset of of everyone around him, right? Because he understood that it's power in numbers. If everyone around me is educated, everyone around me has the tools and resources, then we're going to continue to be this force.
When I was at Apple, one of my coworkers, Rashad, started a Nipsey Hussle book.
Rashad,
yeah,
it's my dog, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, I love that legacy lives on.
Absolutely, it's the marathon continues. Nip said it. It's the highest human act is to inspire, and it's something that's ingrained in me. Based off of those sessions and being there in real time, and just seeing the legacy that was left behind. Right, he inspired millions. Like, mission was fucking accomplished, right? And it's now on us that tore a page out of his playbook to continue that, so.
Okay, speed round. What's your favorite reverb?
Valhalla Vintage Verb.
What's your favorite plugin?
Distressor, UAD version.
Falana wants to know, what artists push you to your limits with their process, and what song has been released that you can point to as your favorite mix?
Push me to limits, obviously, is always going to be Kendrick. Working on To Pimp a Butterfly, that was I didn't know what I was doing, right? The first song on the album was Wesley's Theory, 218 tracks in that session, produced by Flying Lotus. It was blended with live drums and programmed drums. It took me 7 days to mix.
Wow.
Right? Yeah, so one of my favorite songs that I mixed, probably Humble. Humble, yeah.
Rob wants to know, you mentioned imperfections in the process. Are there examples of an imperfection that you felt needed to be a part of the final product?
Absolutely. Hood Politics. If you go back and listen to Hood Politics on To Pimp a Butterfly, if you listen to Kendrick's vocal, we recorded that in a hotel room in New York, and it sounds like it. You can hear the room's reverb, and we played it a million times. Like, we got to re-record it. And we tried to re-record it, and we couldn't achieve that feeling.
The energy
is different. No, the delivery, the performance. So we left it alone. And personally, as an engineer, it bothers me every time I hear it. But
Okay. Paulina wants to know, how would you recommend a mixer practice speed and improve their workflow?
Understand the tools you have access to, right? Dr. Dre told me something that was very important in my early career. He said, it's not what you're working on, it's who's pressing the buttons. I would say perfect the tools you have access to. Don't always think that you need the $1 million consoles, and work with what you have, master that, right? And as you understand the tools you have access to and you now need to upgrade that out of necessity for an elevation of sound, then do that.
So super thoughtful. Siva wanted to say, happy belated birthday.
Wow, thank you.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. Thank you, brother.
November 1st?
November 1st, yeah.
That's my parents' anniversary. Cute. What'd you do for your birthday?
I played with my kids. It's funny because the birthdays after Halloween, you just grew up just partying 2 nights straight. So it's now I just want to just play with my kids.
And how old are your kids?
Luna is 3 and Ari is 8, turning 25.
Oh, that's so fun. Okay, I'm going to do one more, and then I want you to talk about the evolution of engineers. What's your favorite album? Cody wants to know this. What's your favorite album, any genre, that you'll listen to over and over again until you're 100 years old? Speaking of birthdays.
Man, there's a few of them. It's funny because when I was training my ear to mix To Pimp a Butterfly, there was 2 albums that I just ran back 24/7 and actually fell in love with both of them. One of them was the Mo Better Blues soundtrack. Just the texture, it just calmed me. I love jazz. I fell in love with jazz after mixing that album. And the other one was the Beatles album with I forgot the name of it, with Sgt. Pepper's on it. Was it Sgt. Pepper's?
Yeah,
one of the Beatles. Yeah. Was one of the Beatles album. Yeah, those 2 are the albums that I listen to when I kind of want to just hear something that I'm not hearing right now. Right? It's crazy to say you listen to an old album, but also another good one, D'Angelo's the Black Messiah. One of my favorite recipes, D'Angelo. Black Messiah, sonically, was an incredible, just texture-filled album. If you haven't heard it, please go listen to it.
Yeah. So, okay, now, big news. Engineers, the next episode.
Oh, yeah.
Coming?
So, obviously, as you've seen, for years, we've been building to, facilitate that collaboration with an audio engineer or a studio and an artist. But since we've developed and built this flywheel now where we've evangelized our users, right? Our studios and audio engineers, they don't want to work anywhere else but the platform, which they're now bringing their existing clients to work with them on their profiles, right? We're seeing for every one audio engineer we bring on, that one audio engineer brings on 10 recording artists. And for one studio that we bring on, they bring on at a minimum of 25 artists, right? So it only made sense as we've now, crossed the line of more artists on the platform than service providers. The goal for us is providing these artists with more value, right? So, what better opportunity, what better value to provide an artist once they've completed a master or a final version of the song? Let's release it to the world, right? So we partner with a company called Supply Chain, founded by Ghazi, the CEO of Empire, where we've white labeled basically Empire's foundation, and we're introducing a new distribution format where you can't only just distribute to 350 streaming platforms, but you can also sell your music direct to fans all in one single web browser. Artists keep 100% of the revenue, unlimited music distribution and music sales, and it's $60 a year, very competitive rate.
Oh, so wait a minute. So if you're selling music direct to fans, what does that look like for the fan? Are they going to engineers?
Absolutely.
So similar to like a Bandcamp?
Similar to Bandcamp, but the difference is, all these other platforms, right, they're not in the creation phase of the industry, right? So by us being a platform that we started off providing and facilitating collaboration with the creatives and now being able to distribute, right, we're introducing some pretty cool things from gamification to allow an artist to generate these points where they can use that as digital currency to now create catalog and get more songs mixed and book more studio time to keep them in the ecosystem, right? So, we're focused on, really supporting artists to develop catalog. We're providing rollout strategies with our incredible A&R team, right? We spent over a year developing rollouts and, providing this robust outline that could be personalized across any artist to help maximize the release, whether it's selling it direct or using distribution as capturing that wider net. So we're on our way to, become that true operating system of the music industry.
Okay, I love this time of the year. We're creeping up on the holidays and maybe Christmas came early today. But before we say that, of all these new artists that you're discovering and working with, who's one person we need to leave here and listen to?
It depends on what time of the day, Ali, you're looking for. On some, there's a new young LA artist that I'm super excited about. I just finished his album, AZ Chike. He was on Peekaboo on a GNX. Who else am I listening to right now? My mind has been in such just a clutter lately, and for me to really focus on what we're building, like I drive with no music. It's crazy to say as an engineer. Like I listen as a living, right? So I look for any type of piece. Yeah.
Today. Somebody that's hyper creative and early. And he was working here and he had to leave the room. And it's not because he needed a private VIP space. I knew Frankie was DJing over here and I'm the same. Yeah. It would drive me crazy. Like, what song is this? Why did he pick this? You needed the quiet.
When you're creating email sequences, you need the utmost, all quiet, and I hate fucking email sequences.
Okay, so let's get back to Christmas is coming early. What do you have for everybody?
Yeah,
today?
So everyone here, we have, I need everyone's sizes, right? We have some engineers merch for everybody. And for the artists that are here, we have music distribution for you. So anybody that wants early access to our distribution platform, I want to provide it to you all. Thank you. Yeah. And outside of that, again, for the artists here, if you have upcoming music, if it's interesting to you, to provide you with this rollout strategy, right? We provide everything, nuts and bolts from the top, right? Do you even have an LLC for your music, right? With the Hits Act, right? All the studio bookings and mixing and mastering and your subscription fee to the platform is all, write all that off, right? Because I've hit every landmine, independent creative can hit as on their journey up. I want this playbook for artists to kind of, my version of filling the holes of everywhere I've blown up at, not paying taxes for 5 years, right? You should have seen the fucking bill. Don't go those routes, So I want to get everyone's contact and, we'd love to provide you guys with access and additional tools outside of FYI, right? Just the thing about community that I love so much, right, is, what the team at FYI is building and connecting everybody, right? Everyone's here in one chat being able to, leave comments and, ask questions. And that's what it's about, right? It's community, right? And take advantage of it. The fact that you all here, you should be proud and I'm more than grateful to be here speaking to you all. So thank you.
Well, let's make some noise from MixedByAli.
Thanks for listening to the Culture FYI'RS Podcast. Make sure to download the FYI app, available now in the App Store and Google Play. Check out this episode's notes for a project link to this Culture FYI'RS event, including a look at more projects from the FYI community. This episode's Culture FYI'RS event was produced by FYI co-founder will.i.am, Amina Mohammed, Emily Choi, Frankie Sandoval, Jafet Chavez, Julie Pilot, Marcus Nielsen Calling, Ronial Madlani, Sean Kantrowitz, Shania Jafari, the FYI product team, and of course the FYI community. The podcast is edited by Rob Van Vranken. Make sure to subscribe to Culture FYI'RS wherever you get your podcasts so that you never miss an episode. Learn more about FYI by visiting FYI.FYI.